Neighbors in Mountain Shadows are upset and want to know why a water tank permitted to be 45 feet tall was constructed at 60 feet. We found out why by going through internal city documents, the equivalent of 6 reams of paper. And the answer? It's a result of multiple errors made by the city, the engineers hired to build the tank, and Springs Utilities. Neighbors who live near the Wilson water tank are furious and have been for months since the construction began. Owner of the Flying W Ranch, Leanne Wolf, says when they realized the tank was taller than promised, they raised the issue with Colorado Springs Utilities and were ignored.
Well, they continued to do the work even once they knew that we were unhappy, that they didn't have to abide by their building permit like you and I would have to do. So we said, this is not right. Stop this. Tear the extra feet down. This isn't right. You cannot do this. They did not care. They plowed ahead.
This is video from June 2022 of the 40-foot-high tank built in the 1960s. It holds 5 million gallons, supplying water to the Mountain Shadows neighborhood. This video shows the new domed tank. Though it's larger, it holds the same amount of water. Neighbors want a clear answer to why the tank was built 15 feet above what they were promised and its permit allowed.
They were allowed to go up to 45 feet, which was 5 feet higher than the additional tower. And they all through this documentation, it says you must stay within that 45 feet.
Internal city correspondence about the water tank, obtained through an open records request, includes the plan submitted by engineering firm Kimley Horn. We weren't the only ones who read through these documents. Finding the specifications for the tank show it would stand 60 feet tall, not 45 feet as the permit allows.
Well, the plans and specifications for the tank showed a 60-foot high tank. And so somebody at CSU knew that they were signing a contract for over $7 million for a tank that was 60 feet high.
So they obviously were conflicting, but do you think that was intentional?
No, I don't. I think the right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing, and it should have.
Attorney Bruce Wright, who represents Wolf, read through the more than 3,000 pages of internal documents.
One, CSU should have known it was going to spend $7 million for a 60-foot high tank before it submitted for a building permit. And then the people at the regional building should have not only looked at the front part of the application, which had the 45-foot development plan, but should have gone through the 80-some pages of plans and specifications from the contractor, which showed a 60-foot high tank, and caught it. And that didn't happen either. So it was just error upon error where we ended up with the neighbor saying, oh my gosh, what is this?
That neighbor is Lauren Starr, who's perhaps the person most impacted by the concrete tank that sits just steps from his back patio.
So it was right around the beginning of June that I saw the scaffolding go that high, and I questioned their community outreach person, and I said, that looks higher than what I was told it was going to be.
City emails show, quote, the tank height was questioned in June, and the, quote, water tank height confirmed to be too tall upon city staff review.
But the city, meaning regional building, did nothing about it. City planning didn't, nobody did anything about it.
In an email dated June 28th, sent by Kimley Horn civil engineer Mackenzie Chesick to utilities project manager Brian Gimble, she outlines the options. Number 1, quote, do nothing. The planning department should have caught the difference and had us update the developmental plan during the building permit process or deny the permit altogether. Since it was approved in error, this would be on planning. Number 2 was an administrative code change. Number 3, she suggests the city should issue a minor modification to, quote, reconcile the height discrepancy between the developmental plan and the approved structural drawings without a public hearing. They chose option 3. As News 5 previously reported, Colorado Springs Utilities posted a major modification notice to its neighbors, stating the height of the tank would be 60 feet rather than 45, later acknowledging, quote, we regret the height wasn't accurately communicated. Shortly after, the city issued a stop work order on the project, which utilities appealed, allowing them to continue work until a decision was made per the city code. So the city is saying that essentially, this is going to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission can decide what to do next.
In my experience, any private developer who did this would be told, tear it down, adhere to what was approved by the planning department.
So using that logic, the city should have to take down that 15 feet.
Well, if they don't, it kind of smacks of a double standard.
At the time of its appeals, Springs Utilities issued a release saying it, quote, feels it's in the best interest of its customers to avoid costly delays and complete construction. Realistically, Star knows partial demolition likely won't happen, but that extra 15 feet has done far more than block his view. It's vastly diminished his property value and his attempt to reclaim his peace at home following the Waldo Canyon fire.
I want them to come back to the table. I want them to say that they messed up. I want them to agree that they've injured our neighborhood. And I want them to take responsibility for it and then do something to mitigate or abate that injury.
We reached out to Springs Utilities and the engineering firm, both who did not return our request for comment. The city's communications department sent us this statement, noting that the Planning Commission will make a decision on what happens with the water tank next month. When I pressed for an on-camera interview to ask questions in the interest of transparency, they denied that request. You can read the statement from the city and see the internal documents for yourself at KOAA.com. Megan Cloherty, News 5.